During the late 19th century, America was changing faster than ever before. Railroads stretched across the country, factories grew larger, and cities expanded at an incredible pace. This period became known as the Gilded Age, a time marked by rapid industrial growth and enormous fortunes. While many Americans lived modest lives, a small group of families accumulated wealth on a scale the nation had never seen before. In New York City, especially along Fifth Avenue, this wealth took physical form in the shape of grand mansions that symbolized power, ambition, and success. These were not ordinary homes. They were monuments to a new American elite. The wealthy families of the Gilded Age wanted their homes to reflect their status. Many of them looked to Europe for inspiration, especially France. They admired the palaces and grand buildings of Paris and wanted to bring that same elegance to America. As a result, many mansions were built in the Beaux-Arts architectural style. This style focused on balance, symmetry, and classical beauty. Buildings were designed to look impressive from every angle. Large columns, decorative statues, carved stone details, and grand entrances were common features. Every part of the building was carefully planned to create a sense of importance and permanence. From the moment a visitor approached one of these mansions, the message was clear. This was a place of wealth and refinement. Long driveways led to towering doors made of heavy wood and polished metal. Inside, the scale of the rooms often surprised even the most experienced guests. Ceilings were high, hallways were wide, and rooms seemed to stretch endlessly. Marble floors reflected soft light from crystal chandeliers hanging overhead. These chandeliers were not just sources of light. They were works of art, often imported from Europe and made from hundreds of hand-cut crystals. The interiors of these mansions were designed to impress and comfort at the same time. Large ballrooms were built for social events where guests could dance, talk, and enjoy live music. Painted ceilings showed scenes from ancient myths or peaceful countryside landscapes. Walls were covered with silk fabric or decorated with detailed wood panels carved by skilled craftsmen. Furniture was custom-made, often using rare woods and fine fabrics. Everything inside the home reflected careful attention to detail. Libraries were especially important rooms in these mansions. Wealthy families wanted to show that they valued knowledge and culture. Library walls were filled with books bound in leather, many of them imported from Europe. Some families collected rare manuscripts and first editions. These rooms were quiet and calm, offering a peaceful place away from the noise of social gatherings. Fireplaces made of marble or carved stone added warmth and comfort. Bedrooms and private rooms were just as luxurious as public spaces. Beds were large and covered with fine fabrics. Windows were dressed with heavy curtains that blocked out light and noise. Bathrooms were surprisingly advanced for the time. While many Americans still used outdoor toilets, these mansions often had indoor plumbing, running water, and early forms of heating. This level of comfort was almost unimaginable for most people living during that era. The location of these mansions was also important. Fifth Avenue became known as Millionaire's Row because so many wealthy families built their homes there. Living on this street meant being part of an exclusive social world. Neighbors were industrial leaders, bankers, and business owners who shaped the nation's economy. Each family wanted their mansion to be larger, more beautiful, and more impressive than the last. This quiet rivalry led to some of the most remarkable buildings America has ever seen. These homes were more than places to live. They were symbols of a new America, a country filled with ambition and confidence. The mansions of the Gilded Age represented the belief that success should be visible and celebrated. At the same time, they quietly revealed the growing gap between the wealthy and the rest of society. While these grand homes rose along Fifth Avenue, many New Yorkers struggled with poverty, crowded housing, and difficult working conditions. The contrast was striking, and it would soon lead to public debate and criticism. While the outside of Gilded Age mansions captured attention, life inside these homes was even more remarkable. These mansions were not only beautiful, but also filled with new technology that was far ahead of its time. During the late 1800s, most American homes still relied on candles or gas lamps for light. Heating often came from wood or coal stoves, and basic sanitation was limited. In contrast, the mansions of Millionaires Row offered a glimpse into the future. Electric light changed social life inside the mansions. Parties could last long into the night without dim candles or smoky lamps. Many built their own private power plants directly inside or beneath their homes. These systems generated electricity for hundreds of light bulbs, allowing rooms to remain brightly lit even at night. For guests attending evening events, the glowing interiors created a magical atmosphere. Thomas Edison's practical electric lighting, introduced in 1879, helped pave the way, but it took many years for electricity to reach average households. Wealthy families did not want to wait. These systems generated illumination for hundreds of light bulbs, illuminating rooms with electric light that transformed the social atmosphere. This innovation helped parties last long into the night without dim candles or smoky lamps. Ballrooms shimmered with light, reflecting off mirrors, polished floors, and crystal decorations. Electric lighting became a symbol of progress and status. Having a fully electrified home showed that a family was modern, powerful, and forward-thinking. Another major innovation was the elevator. Before elevators became common, stairs were essential parts of home design. In Gilded Age mansions, elevators made movement between floors easy and comfortable. These elevators were not simple machines. They were beautifully designed, with brass details, polished wood, and soft seating. An attendant often operated the elevator, adding to the feeling of luxury. With elevators available, mansions could grow taller and more complex, with many floors dedicated to different purposes. Heating systems also improved life inside these homes. Instead of relying only on fireplaces, many mansions used early central heating systems. Warm air, or steam, traveled through hidden pipes, keeping rooms comfortable during cold winters. This allowed families to enjoy large spaces without worrying about the weather. Some homes even featured early forms of air cooling, making summers more pleasant. Water systems were another major advancement. Indoor plumbing allowed for clean water in kitchens and bathrooms. Heated water made bathing more comfortable, while advanced drainage systems improved sanitation. For many visitors, these features were shocking. They represented a level of comfort that most Americans would not experience for decades. Life inside the mansions followed a structured routine. Wealthy families employed large staffs to maintain their homes. Servants worked in kitchens, cleaned rooms, managed clothing, and operated technical systems. Behind the elegant public spaces were service corridors, stairways, and rooms designed to keep daily work out of sight. This separation allowed guests to experience beauty and calm without seeing the labor required to maintain it. Social events were central to mansion life. Lavish dinners, formal balls, and private concerts were common. Guests dressed in fine clothing and followed strict social rules. Invitations were highly valued, as they represented acceptance into elite circles. These gatherings helped wealthy families build connections, strengthen business relationships, and display their influence. Some of the most famous families of the Gilded Age lived in these mansions. The Vanderbilts, for example, built several enormous homes along Fifth Avenue. Their residences became symbols of wealth and family legacy. Other powerful families, including the Carnegies, Morgans, and Rockefellers, followed similar paths. Each family sought to leave a lasting mark on the city through architecture and design. Despite the beauty and comfort, Life inside these mansions was not without tension. As wealth became more visible, public criticism increased. Journalists and social reformers began to question whether such extreme luxury was appropriate in a society where many struggled to survive. The mansions became symbols of both success and inequality. Still, the families who lived there believed they were shaping America's future through innovation, industry, and philanthropy. As the 20th century approached, the world began to change once again. The Gilded Age, with its endless optimism and visible wealth, slowly faded. Economic conditions shifted, and new challenges emerged. Property taxes in New York City increased, making it expensive to maintain large homes in prime locations. At the same time, commercial development expanded rapidly. Businesses wanted space along Fifth Avenue, and land values continued to rise. Social values also began to change. Large private mansions were no longer seen as practical or necessary. Wealthy families started moving northward or leaving the city altogether, choosing private estates in quieter areas. The enormous homes they left behind were difficult to sell and expensive to maintain. Slowly, the once glorious mansions of Millionaires' Row began to disappear. Some mansions were demolished to make way for skyscrapers, hotels, and department stores. Others were converted into offices, schools, or clubs. Grand ballrooms were divided into smaller rooms. Libraries became storage areas. Staircases that once welcomed guests now stood unused and silent. In only a few decades, most of the architectural treasures of Fifth Avenue were gone. This transformation happened quickly. What took years to design and build vanished in a short period of time. Many people later regretted the loss, realizing too late that something irreplaceable had been destroyed. The city gained efficiency and commercial power, but it lost much of its historic beauty and character. Despite their disappearance, the Gilded Age mansions left a lasting legacy. They influenced American architecture, interior design, and ideas about luxury living. Many features once considered extravagant, such as indoor plumbing, central heating, and electric lighting, eventually became standard in modern homes. The mansions served as testing grounds for innovations that shaped everyday life. They also left behind stories. Photographs, drawings, and written accounts allow us to imagine what life was like inside these grand homes. Museums and preserved estates outside the city still offer glimpses into this world. Through them, we can understand the ambitions, dreams, and contradictions of the Gilded Age. The mansions remind us of a time when America was defining itself. They reflect confidence, creativity, and belief in progress. At the same time, they highlight inequality and excess. This combination makes them powerful symbols of their era. Today, when we think of the Gilded Age, we often picture Fifth Avenue lined with glowing windows, elegant guests arriving in carriages, and music floating through the night air. Though the buildings are gone, their memory remains. They invite us to slow down, reflect, and consider how history shapes the world we live in today. In the late 19th century, the United States was entering a period of great change. Cities expanded, industries grew stronger, and fortunes were created almost overnight. This time became known as the Gilded Age, an era filled with ambition, progress, and visible wealth. While many Americans lived simple lives, a small number of families gained immense riches. In New York City, especially along Fifth Avenue, this wealth took shape in the form of grand mansions that quietly reshaped the city's landscape. These homes were not built simply to provide shelter. They were designed to make a statement. Each mansion reflected the dreams and confidence of its owner. Wealthy families wanted their homes to show success, culture, and refinement. To achieve this, many turned to Europe for inspiration. France, in particular, influenced their vision. From this influence came the Beaux-Arts architectural style, known for its balance, symmetry, and classical beauty. From the outside, these mansions appeared calm and powerful. Tall columns framed wide entrances. Stone walls were decorated with detailed carvings. Sculptures and statues stood silently, watching over the avenue. Every element was carefully chosen. The goal was simple: to create a sense of permanence and importance. Inside, the scale was even more impressive. Rooms were large and open, with high ceilings that allowed light to spread softly across marble floors. Crystal chandeliers hung above, glowing gently in the evening hours. These lights reflected off mirrors and polished surfaces, creating a warm and peaceful atmosphere. Visitors often felt a sense of quiet awe as they moved through these spaces. Ballrooms were central to many of these homes. Designed for elegant gatherings, they offered wide floors for dancing and tall windows that looked out over the city. Music filled the air during formal events, while conversations echoed gently along decorated walls. Painted ceilings often showed calm scenes inspired by classical stories or peaceful landscapes, adding to the sense of escape from the outside world. Libraries offered a different kind of beauty. These rooms were quiet and private, lined with shelves that stretched from floor to ceiling. Books bound in leather rested neatly in place, many imported from Europe. Fireplaces added warmth, while soft chairs invited moments of rest and reflection. These spaces showed that wealth was not only about display, but also about learning and culture. Private rooms were treated with the same care as public spaces. Bedrooms were large and comfortable, filled with fine fabrics and carefully chosen furniture. Heavy curtains softened the light, creating a sense of calm. Bathrooms, advanced for their time, included running water and early plumbing systems. For most Americans, such comfort was still far in the future. Fifth Avenue soon became known as Millionaire's Row. Living there meant belonging to an exclusive social circle. Neighbors were powerful business leaders, bankers, and industrial pioneers. Quiet competition developed among them. Each family wanted their home to be more impressive than the last. This rivalry pushed architecture to new levels and transformed the avenue into a gallery of wealth and ambition. Yet even as these mansions rose, the contrast between wealth and poverty became clear. While Fifth Avenue glittered, many New Yorkers lived crowded lives with limited resources. The mansions stood as symbols of both success and division. They represented a nation full of opportunity, but also one facing deep inequality. Still, during this time, few questioned the belief that progress would continue without end. These homes reflected confidence in the future. They captured a moment when America believed anything was possible, and success could be built in stone, marble, and light. In the late 19th century, the United States entered a time of rapid growth and deep change. Cities expanded quickly, industries grew stronger, and new inventions transformed daily life. This period became known as the Gilded Age. It was a time when great fortunes were built, often in a single lifetime. Railroads connected distant lands, factories produced goods at an unprecedented scale, and banks financed massive projects. While millions of Americans worked long hours for modest wages, a small group of families accumulated enormous wealth. In New York City, especially along Fifth Avenue, this wealth became visible in the form of grand mansions that reshaped the city and defined an era. These mansions were not simple houses. They were carefully designed symbols of success and ambition. Wealthy families wanted their homes to reflect power, culture, and refinement. To achieve this, many looked beyond America for inspiration. Europe, and particularly France, became their model. The architectural style known as Beaux Arts gained popularity during this time. This style emphasized balance, symmetry, and classical beauty. Buildings were designed to appear grand yet orderly, impressive yet elegant. Every detail mattered, from the shape of the windows to the placement of decorative statues. As visitors approached these mansions, they were greeted by tall stone facades, wide stairways, and large doors made from heavy wood and polished metal. Columns rose high above the street, creating a sense of strength and permanence. Sculptures and carved details decorated the exterior, often inspired by ancient Greek and Roman designs. These homes were meant to stand as lasting monuments to their owner's success. Inside, the scale of the mansions was even more striking. Ceilings were high, allowing rooms to feel open and airy. Marble floors reflected soft light from large windows and elegant chandeliers. Crystal lights hung from above, casting a gentle glow throughout the rooms. Walls were decorated with silk fabrics, detailed woodwork, or fine paintings. Furniture was custom-made and carefully arranged to create a sense of comfort and order. Large ballrooms were a central feature of many mansions. These spaces were designed for social gatherings, formal dinners, and elegant dances. Music filled the air during evening events, while guests moved slowly across polished floors. Painted ceilings showed calm scenes from mythology or nature, adding beauty and imagination to the space. These rooms were not used every day, but they played an important role in social life. Libraries were another important part of these homes. They were quiet rooms lined with shelves that reached from floor to ceiling. Books bound in leather rested neatly in place, many of them imported from Europe. Fireplaces added warmth and comfort, while soft chairs invited moments of rest and reflection. These libraries showed that wealth was not only about display, but also about learning and culture. Private rooms received the same attention as public spaces. Bedrooms were large and peaceful, filled with fine fabrics and carefully chosen furniture. Heavy curtains softened sunlight and reduced noise from the street. Bathrooms were advanced for their time, often featuring running water and early plumbing systems. For most Americans living during this era, such comfort was still far beyond reach. Fifth Avenue soon became known as Millionaire's Row. Living there meant belonging to a powerful and exclusive social world. Neighbors were industrial leaders, bankers, and business owners who influenced the nation's economy. Quiet competition developed among them. Each family wanted their home to be more impressive than the last. This rivalry pushed architects and designers to create ever more grand and elaborate mansions. Yet even as these homes rose in beauty and scale, they revealed a growing divide within society. While Fifth Avenue shone with wealth and elegance, many New Yorkers lived in crowded conditions and struggled to survive. The mansions became symbols of both admiration and inequality. They reflected a nation full of opportunity, but also one facing serious social challenges. While the exterior beauty of Gilded Age mansions captured public attention, life inside these homes was equally remarkable. These mansions were not only luxurious, but also filled with new technology that was far ahead of its time. During the late 1800s, most American households relied on candles or gas lamps for light. Heating came from fireplaces or coal stoves, and indoor plumbing was rare. In contrast, the mansions of Millionaire's Row offered a glimpse into a future filled with comfort and convenience. Electricity was one of the most impressive features inside these homes. Although electric lighting had only recently been introduced, wealthy families did not want to wait for public systems to develop. Many built private power plants within their properties. These systems produced electricity that powered hundreds of light bulbs, allowing rooms to glow brightly at night. Evening gatherings became more enjoyable, and guests were often amazed by the steady, clean light. Electric lighting changed the way people experienced space. Ballrooms sparkled with reflected light, mirrors shone brightly, and fine details became more visible. The glow created a calm and magical atmosphere that candles could not match. Electricity quickly became a symbol of progress and modern thinking. Elevators were another important innovation. Before elevators, stairs were the primary way to move between floors. In these mansions, elevators made travel easier and more comfortable. They were beautifully designed, featuring polished wood, brass details, and soft seating. Often operated by attendants, these elevators added to the feeling of luxury. With elevators available, homes could be taller and more complex in design. Heating systems also improved daily life. Early central heating systems allowed warm air or steam to circulate throughout the home. Large rooms remained comfortable even during cold winters. This allowed families to enjoy spacious interiors without worrying about temperature. Water systems were equally advanced. Indoor plumbing brought clean water directly into kitchens and bathrooms. Heated water made bathing easier and more pleasant. Drainage systems improved cleanliness and health. These features were rare at the time and demonstrated how wealth could bring early access to innovation. Life inside the mansions depended on large household staffs. Servants worked quietly behind the scenes to maintain the homes. They cleaned rooms, prepared meals, cared for clothing, and managed technical systems. Special corridors and stairways allowed staff to move unseen, preserving the calm and elegance of public spaces. Social events played a major role in mansion life. Formal dinners, grand balls, and private concerts were common. Guests followed strict rules of behavior and dress. Invitations were highly valued and carefully controlled. These gatherings strengthened business relationships and reinforced social status. Families such as the Vanderbilts, Carnegies, Morgans, and Rockefellers became well known during this time. Their homes reflected not only personal wealth, but also influence over industry and culture. Many believed they were shaping the future of America through innovation, investment, and philanthropy. Despite the beauty and comfort, public opinion began to change. Journalists and reformers questioned the fairness of such extreme wealth. The mansions became symbols of both achievement and imbalance. Still, for those who lived within them, the homes represented progress, success, and a belief in endless possibility. As the 20th century approached, the world began to shift once again. Economic conditions changed, and the optimism of the Gilded Age slowly faded. Property taxes in New York City increased, making large mansions expensive to maintain. At the same time, commercial development expanded rapidly. Businesses sought valuable land along Fifth Avenue, and property values rose sharply. Social attitudes also evolved. Large private mansions were increasingly seen as impractical. Wealthy families began moving to quieter areas or building estates outside the city. Many of the great homes of Millionaires' Row were left behind, too large and costly to maintain. One by one, the mansions disappeared. Some were demolished to make room for skyscrapers, hotels, and department stores. Others were converted into offices, schools, or clubs. Grand ballrooms were divided into smaller rooms. Libraries became storage spaces. Staircases that once welcomed guests stood silent. This transformation happened quickly. Buildings that took years to design and construct vanished within decades. Many people later regretted the loss, realizing that important pieces of architectural history had been destroyed. Despite their disappearance, the Gilded Age mansions left a lasting impact. They influenced American architecture and design. Many technologies first used in these homes later became common in everyday life. They also left behind stories that help us understand a powerful moment in history. Today, the memory of these mansions invites reflection. They remind us of ambition, creativity, and progress, as well as inequality and excess. Though the buildings are gone, their legacy continues to shape how we view the past. As the great mansions of the Gilded Age slowly disappeared from Fifth Avenue, something else quietly faded with them. The personal stories of the people who lived, worked, and dreamed inside those walls began to slip away. These homes were once full of life. Voices echoed through long hallways. Music drifted through open doors. Laughter filled grand rooms late into the night. When the mansions vanished, much of this human history vanished as well. Behind the beauty and wealth were countless untold stories. Servants rose early each morning to prepare meals, clean rooms, and maintain the careful order of the house. Cooks worked long hours in hot kitchens. Housekeepers moved silently through corridors, keeping everything spotless. Chauffeurs waited patiently outside, while gardeners tended carefully designed landscapes. Their lives were closely tied to the mansions, yet their names were rarely remembered. Children of wealthy families grew up within these enormous homes. They learned to walk on polished floors and played quietly in private rooms. Tutors taught them languages, music, and history. For them, the mansion felt normal, even ordinary, though it was anything but. As they grew older, many left these homes behind, carrying memories that would later feel distant and unreal. Some families experienced joy within these walls. Others faced quiet struggles. Behind closed doors, not every life was perfect. Wealth brought comfort, but it did not remove loneliness, pressure, or loss. Some owners felt trapped by expectations. Others worried constantly about maintaining their status. These emotional stories were hidden beneath layers of luxury. As the mansions were torn down or transformed, many objects were scattered. Furniture was sold. Artwork was moved to private collections or museums. Books were boxed away. Chandeliers were removed piece by piece. Entire rooms were dismantled and lost. What once belonged together became separated forever. A few people recognized the loss while it was happening. Architects, historians, and artists warned that something important was being destroyed. They spoke of craftsmanship that could not be replaced and beauty that would never return. But progress moved faster than memory. The city chose efficiency and profit over preservation. By the middle of the 20th century, only photographs remained. Black and white images showed long rows of mansions that no longer existed. Looking at them today feels almost unreal. Streets that now hold tall buildings once held quiet gardens and wide entrances. The city changed its skin, and few physical traces of Millionaires' Row survived. Yet the spirit of these homes did not disappear completely. Some ideas lived on. The desire for beauty, comfort, and innovation continued to shape architecture. Museums, libraries, and public buildings borrowed design elements once seen in the mansions. Arches, columns, and decorative stonework found new homes elsewhere. Outside New York City, a small number of Gilded Age estates survived. Mansions built in quieter areas were preserved and later opened to the public. These homes now serve as windows into the past. Visitors walk slowly through rooms once filled with private life. Guides speak softly, explaining how people lived long ago. Time seems to slow down inside these spaces. Standing in such a mansion today feels different from standing in a modern building. The air feels heavier, calmer. Light moves gently across walls. Each room seems to hold memory. Even empty spaces feel full, as if they are waiting for something to return. These preserved homes allow us to imagine what has been lost. The story of the Gilded Age mansions is not only about wealth or architecture. It is about change. It is about how cities grow, how values shift, and how quickly beauty can disappear when it is not protected. It reminds us that progress always carries a cost, even when it feels necessary. In today's fast-moving world, the quiet lessons of these mansions feel more important than ever. They encourage us to slow down, to notice details, to respect craftsmanship, to remember that history is not only found in books, but in spaces where people once lived their lives. As we reflect on these forgotten homes, we begin to understand that preservation is not just about saving buildings. It is about honoring the past while moving into the future with care. The mansions of the Gilded Age may be gone, but their message remains. They remind us that every era believes it will last forever. Every generation builds with confidence, and every city must decide what it chooses to remember. In the quiet echo of vanished halls and empty gardens, the forgotten mansions of Fifth Avenue continue to whisper their story, softly, patiently, and without end. In this way, the mansions tell us as much about human nature as they do about history. The families who built these homes believed they were creating something lasting. They invested enormous amounts of money, time, and care into every detail. Craftsmen worked for years, carving wood, shaping stone, and painting ceilings. Architects studied history to design buildings that felt timeless. Nothing about these mansions was meant to be temporary, and yet most of them disappeared within a few decades. This contrast reminds us how quickly the world can change. One of the most important lessons of the Gilded Age mansions is that progress does not always protect beauty. As cities grow, choices must be made. Space becomes valuable. Efficiency becomes important. What once felt essential can suddenly feel unnecessary. The mansions stood in the way of a new kind of city, one filled with offices, stores, and tall buildings. In the push toward the future, the past was often pushed aside. Another lesson comes from the lives lived inside these homes. Wealth provided comfort and opportunity, but it did not guarantee happiness. Behind grand walls, people experienced joy, worry, love, and loss, just like anyone else. Children grew up and moved on. Families faced illness and change. Staff members worked hard, often unnoticed, to keep daily life running smoothly. The mansions remind us that human life remains simple at its core, even when surrounded by luxury. As time passed, the idea of luxury itself began to change. What once seemed extraordinary slowly became normal. Electricity, indoor plumbing, heating, and elevators are now part of everyday life. Features that once amazed guests are now expected in even modest homes. In this way, the mansions helped shape the modern world. They served as early testing grounds for ideas that would later benefit everyone. Today, when people walk along Fifth Avenue, it is difficult to imagine what once stood there. Tall buildings rise where gardens once grew. Busy streets replace quiet entrances. The city feels louder, faster, and more crowded. Yet, if one pauses and looks closely, it is possible to sense the layers of history beneath the surface. The past is still there, even if it cannot be seen. Photographs and written records allow us to remember. They capture moments frozen in time. A carriage stopped at a grand doorway. Guests arriving for an evening event. Soft light glowing for tall windows. These images invite us to slow down and imagine a world that moved at a different pace. A world where evenings were long, conversations were unhurried, and beauty was carefully crafted. The story of the Gilded Age mansions also raises questions for the present. Which ones will survive, and which will disappear? What values are reflected in our cities now? These questions do not have simple answers, but they remind us that every generation leaves behind a physical record of its choices. Preservation has become more important as people recognize what was lost. Around the world, efforts are made to protect historic buildings and spaces. These efforts are not about resisting change, but about balancing progress with memory. When we preserve history, we allow future generations to learn not only from books, but from real places. For those listening quietly now, the story of the Forgotten Mansions offers a gentle invitation. It invites us to reflect on time, change, and the passing nature of things. It encourages us to appreciate beauty while it exists, and to remember that even the grandest creations are part of a larger story. As night settles and the world grows quiet, it is easy to imagine the soft glow of gas lamps and early electric lights along Fifth Avenue long ago. Music drifting through open windows, footsteps echoing on marble floors, voices fading into silence. Though the buildings are gone, the feeling remains, resting quietly in history. The forgotten Gilded Age mansions now live on as memories, lessons, and whispers from the past. They remind us that history is always close, even when it seems far away. And as we drift into rest, their story continues softly, patiently, and endlessly, waiting to be remembered once more. Even though most of the Gilded Age mansions no longer exist, their influence continues to shape our world. The ideas and innovations that once filled these homes quietly spread into everyday life. Features that were once extraordinary: electric lighting, central heating, indoor plumbing, elevators, eventually became common in ordinary homes. The mansions were not only symbols of wealth, but also early experiments in comfort and convenience. They taught Americans that design and technology could work together to improve daily life. And they set standards that are still followed in architecture today. The mansions also left a cultural and emotional legacy. They remind us of the ambitions, dreams, and challenges of the people who lived in that era. Wealth allowed families to create beauty and comfort, but it also brought responsibilities and social pressures. Inside these walls, countless personal stories unfolded. Moments of joy, celebration, struggle, and quiet reflection. Servants and staff worked tirelessly, often unnoticed, to keep the homes functioning, while children grew up surrounded by elegance and expectation. These human stories, though largely forgotten, are part of the rich history of the Gilded Age. Preserving memory has become more important as time passes. Museums, archives, and preserved estates offer glimpses into the lives once lived in these grand homes. Visitors can walk through rooms that still carry the whispers of the past. They can imagine the soft rustle of silk gowns, the flicker of candlelight, the low hum of conversation at a quiet dinner. Even photographs provide insight into a world that no longer exists, allowing people to connect with history in a personal and emotional way. By remembering, we honor the effort, craftsmanship, and imagination that went into these homes. The story of the Gilded Age mansions also offers lessons for the present. Cities constantly grow and change, and new buildings replace old ones. But each choice leaves a mark. The mansions remind us that every era has the power to create beauty, and that some of that beauty can be lost if it is not valued. In a way, they encourage us to pay attention to our surroundings and consider what future generations might remember about the world we build today. As we reflect quietly, the mansions become more than buildings. They become symbols of time itself. They show us how fast progress can move, how quickly even the grandest creations can disappear, and how important it is to preserve memory. They invite patience and attention, teaching us that history is made not only by great events, but also by the quiet choices of everyday life. The Gilded Age may have passed, but its lessons remain. In imagining these homes today, it is easy to picture Fifth Avenue as it once was. Wide gardens stretched along the street, carriages rolled slowly across smooth driveways, and windows glowed softly in the evening light. Music and conversation drifted through the air, fading gently as the night deepened. Though the buildings themselves are gone, this imagined world allows us to connect with history in a gentle, reflective way. It encourages calm, quiet thought, and an appreciation for craftsmanship, beauty, and human ambition. The legacy of the Gilded Age mansions extends beyond architecture and technology. It is a story about ambition, creativity, and vision. It is about the human desire to shape the world, to leave something lasting, and to create spaces that inspire awe and reflection. It is also a story about impermanence and the quiet passing of time. Nothing lasts forever, and yet the echoes of the past continue to teach, comfort, and inspire those who take the time to listen. Even today, the mansions whisper their stories softly. They remind us to notice beauty, to honor craftsmanship, and to cherish the moments that make life meaningful. They encourage us to think about what we value and what we leave behind. In this way, the forgotten homes of the Gilded Age continue to live, not through bricks and stone, but through memory, reflection, and quiet imagination. They are a gentle reminder that history is alive, waiting patiently for those who wish to hear its story. As we reach the final chapter of the story of the Gilded Age mansions, it becomes clear that their significance is more than physical. These homes were more than marble walls, crystal chandeliers, or grand ballrooms. They were reflections of human imagination, determination, and ambition. They remind us that people have always sought to shape their surroundings, to create beauty, and to leave something meaningful behind. The vanished mansions of Fifth Avenue continue to speak to us, softly, if we take the time to listen. Even though most of these buildings no longer exist, their memory lives on in stories, photographs, and preserved estates elsewhere. Museums and historic houses allow visitors to step into a world that might otherwise be forgotten. Walking through these spaces, one can almost hear the soft rustle of silk gowns or the quiet footfalls of servants moving carefully through the halls. The energy of past lives seems to linger in the air. In this way, the Gilded Age mansions teach us that history is not only about events and dates, it is about the spaces we inhabit, the choices we make, and the lives we live. The grandeur of these homes also carries a gentle lesson about impermanence. No matter how solid the walls or how elaborate the design, nothing lasts forever. Time, change, and progress inevitably leave their mark. Some may see loss in this, but there is also a sense of beauty in impermanence. The mansions remind us that life itself is temporary, and that memory, reflection, and imagination are ways to keep the past alive. In this sense, these forgotten homes continue to inspire, even in their absence. Preservation, then, becomes a form of respect. It is not just about saving bricks and stones. It is about saving stories, preserving memory, and honoring the human spirit that created something remarkable. Today, when we reflect on the vanished mansions, we are reminded to value what we have, to notice details, and to consider the legacy of our own time. Cities grow, cultures change, and priorities shift, but the quiet lessons of history remain for those willing to observe. For those listening quietly, the story of the Gilded Age mansions can feel like a lullaby. It is a tale of ambition, artistry, and change. It is a reminder of how quickly time passes, how impermanent even the grandest achievements can be, and how memory and imagination allow us to keep the past alive. The vanished homes of Fifth Avenue continue to whisper across the years, asking only that we pause, reflect, and remember. In imagining the mansions as they once stood, one can picture quiet gardens stretching along wide avenues. Carriages roll slowly across polished driveways. Music drifts gently through open windows, mingling with laughter and conversation. Crystal chandeliers scatter light across marble floors. Private libraries hold shelves filled with rare books, and ballrooms echo with the soft steps of dancers long gone. Even though the buildings themselves no longer exist, this imagined world helps us connect with the past, feel its calm energy, and appreciate the care that went into creating something truly remarkable. The story of these mansions also reminds us of the human desire to leave a mark. Each room, each detail, and each carefully chosen decoration was a statement of values, a reflection of personal ambition, and an offering to the future. Even as time has changed the world, the choices made during the Gilded Age continue to influence architecture, design, and ideas of luxury today. The mansions were teachers, showing what is possible when imagination, skill, and resources come together. Finally, the vanished mansions of Fifth Avenue invite quiet contemplation. They remind us to slow down, notice the world around us, and consider what we value most. They remind us that beauty is fleeting, yet memory, reflection, and imagination allow us to carry it forward. Though the grand halls no longer stand, the spirit of the Gilded Age continues to live through the stories, lessons, and gentle whispers of the past. In this way, the mansions never truly disappear. They live on in thought, in imagination, and in the quiet reflection of those who pause to remember. And so, as the story comes to a close, we leave the Gilded Age mansions with a sense of peace. Their history has been told, their lessons have been learned. Their beauty, though gone in form, continues to shine in memory. For those who listen with patience, the mansions offer a final gift, a quiet reminder of ambition, artistry, and the gentle passing of time. And in that quiet, their story lives on, patiently, endlessly, and softly, like a whisper carried on the wind. As we reach the final moments of the story, it is important to pause and reflect on what the Gilded Age mansions truly represent. These homes were never just stone, marble, or wood. They were expressions of human creativity, imagination, and aspiration. Every carved column, every painted ceiling, and every polished floor was a testament to the effort, skill, and vision of the people who created them. Though many of these homes no longer exist, their spirit remains, quietly shaping the way we think about architecture, beauty, and ambition. They remind us that even fleeting things can leave an enduring mark on the world. Walking through the history of these mansions, it becomes clear that they were more than luxurious residences. They were laboratories of innovation. They introduced technologies that would one day be common in every home: electric lighting, elevators, indoor plumbing, heating systems, and more. These features transformed the experience of living and set standards that continue to influence the design of modern homes. In their quiet, elegant way, these mansions helped pave the path for a new kind of domestic life, showing that comfort, beauty, and technology could coexist harmoniously. But beyond technology, the mansions were reflections of society itself. They told stories about wealth, status, and the human desire to achieve greatness. The families who built these homes were leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries, shaping industries and culture. Yet their lives also remind us that wealth alone cannot guarantee happiness. Within these walls, joy and sorrow, celebration and struggle, coexisted side by side. These human stories, often hidden from public view, are as important as the architecture itself. They teach us that history is not just about buildings or events, but about the people who lived, worked, and dreamed within them. Even as the mansions were demolished, converted, or abandoned, they continued to inspire. Architects, designers, and historians studied their details, learning from their craftsmanship and vision. Museums and historic houses preserved examples of this grandeur, allowing future generations to experience a sense of the era. Through photographs, blueprints, and stories, the essence of these homes remains alive, quietly influencing design and reminding us of the possibilities of human creativity. Perhaps most importantly, the Gilded Age mansions teach us about impermanence and memory. No matter how grand or carefully constructed, time changes everything. Cities evolve, societies shift, and priorities transform. Yet memory allows beauty and creativity to survive beyond their physical form. Even in absence, the mansions speak to us. They invite reflection, encourage calm observation, and remind us to value what we have while we have it. Their loss is a gentle lesson about the passing nature of all things, and the importance of paying attention to the world around us. For those who pause and imagine the past, the mansions offer quiet, comforting scenes. One can picture long gardens bathed in soft sunlight, doors opening onto wide marble floors, and crystal chandeliers scattering gentle light. Music and laughter drift through hallways, mingling with the soft sounds of footsteps on polished stairs. Families gather for dinner, while servants move silently behind the scenes, maintaining order and calm. Though these scenes exist only in memory, they evoke a sense of peace and continuity. They remind us that life is made up of quiet moments as much as grand achievements. Today, the story of these mansions encourages us to see history not as something distant, but as something close and meaningful. They remind us that every generation leaves traces of itself, whether through buildings, stories, or ideas. Preservation is about more than bricks and stone. It is about holding on to memory, honoring creativity, and learning from the past. The Gilded Age mansions may no longer line Fifth Avenue, but their lessons, their elegance, and their quiet whispers continue to inspire those who pause to listen. As night falls and the world grows quiet, it is possible to feel the spirit of the Gilded Age mansions lingering in the air. The streets may have changed, the buildings may have vanished, but the ideas they embodied, ambition, beauty, creativity, and reflection, remain alive. They remind us that even the most temporary creations can leave a lasting impact. And in this way, the forgotten mansions continue to live on, patiently, softly, and endlessly, offering their story to anyone willing to hear it and imagine the elegance, the life, and the quiet magic of a time long past. And so, as we leave behind the streets once lined with grand mansions, we carry with us the memory of a time both dazzling and fleeting. The marble staircases, glittering chandeliers, and endless ballrooms may be gone, but the spirit of the Gilded Age lives on, in the stories, in the lessons, and in the quiet inspiration that remains. These homes remind us of human ambition, of the creativity and care that shaped them, and of the beauty that can emerge when vision meets skill. They teach us that